So, last month, Jerome Powell just indicated that the Fed won't wait until inflation is down to 2% before cutting rates. What does he mean by that? Why does inflation have to be down to 2%? And how does inflation and cutting rates gonna affect our life? Let's find out in this video. Ever since the 2020 pandemic and 2022 Russia-Ukraine war, the media and news have kept talking about inflation, CPI, energy prices, and raising interest rates, which is so confusing to most people. And the governments around the world keep printing money these years. And yes, you know exactly which government in particular I'm talking about. Many of us can actually feel the prices of daily expenses are going higher and higher. For example, in Singapore, where I'm living in, back in 2019, a plate of Hainanese chicken rice was about $3.3. And just after 5 years, the price is now $5.5. The average price of a plate of chicken rice across the country is now $4.3. You might think this is not a big deal, just about a $1 or $2 difference. But when you really do the math, it's actually 50% to 60% up, which means your buying power on the chicken rice has been decreasing over the years. Okay, maybe this example is too lame for you. Let's change the subject. How about the gas price, utility price, housing price, or LV and Chanel bag price? Just try to name something that hasn't increased in price over the years.
Emotional damage.
Okay, fine. You got me. So what exactly is this inflation thing all about? To begin with, I have to tell you that inflation is actually a good thing in general belief among economists. What's really bad is hyperinflation, stagflation, and even deflation. Hey, Xiao, you just now you say inflation is so bad, and now you say it's good, huh? You crazy, bro? Talk some more about hyperinflation. What is that, Superman, Alright, calm down. Let me explain to you. The general belief among economists is that a little inflation is good to the overall economic environment. Ideally, it should be controlled to be 2% per year, or within the range between 1.8% to 2.2% per year. In other words, the price of our daily goods and services should only increase by this amount every year, which then can be considered as a sustainable economic environment. CPI, which is the short for Consumer Price Index. It's the figure that you can search to check the latest inflation rate of your country. For example, now in Singapore, the CPI is 3.1%, and in the US, it's 3.3%. Still not down to 2% yet, but as said by Jerome Powell, the Fed won't wait until inflation is down to 2% before cutting rates. So why is this magic number so important? That has to be 2%. Well, before that, I need to talk more about one of the most important things in our life. We use money every day to buy food, clothes, cars, pay for rents, bills, and so on and so forth. Basically, we can't live without money, right? But where does money come from? I work lah, then I got money lor, from my boss . Yes, correct. But where does your boss's money come from? I don't know leh. From sky . Okay, so your boss borrows money from commercial banks in order to fund his business, and he has to pay interest to the bank. This money he can use to pay for all the costs that relate to the production, such as wages, material costs. Then sell the products for a profit. And where does the money of the commercial banks come from? It's also borrowed from the central bank of the country. So here's the last question for you guys. Where does the money of the central bank come from? The central bank can print as much money as they want to. Yes, you heard me. As much as they want. But of course, there are some restrictions on printing money. Before 1971, every central bank in the world had to have gold in their reserve as a collateral to print money. In other words, how much gold you have in your safe equals how much money you can print. Or at that time, you can reserve US dollars in your safe as well because the US has the largest gold reserve in the world. However, after 1971, the US decided to abandon this gold standard for various reasons.
Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
I will make a video to talk more details about this in the future if you guys are interested. So after this incident, the US decided to use government bonds as a collateral for printing money. That is why US government debt is increasing over the years. But not to worry about it, the debt is still under control as compared to other developed countries. Because so far, the US still has the strongest economy in the world. Everyone is buying goods and services from US companies. So for now, the central bank in the world has to reserve US government bonds in order to print money. And also, they will look at the economic data to decide how much money they need to print. Now we come back to our topic. How does printing money affect inflation? If the central bank decided to print more money this year, which means more money floating to the market, I get more money, you get more money, everyone gets more money. Yay! More money. Everyone is happy. So what do you do when you have more money? You start to buy more things, right? When everyone starts buying more things, the supply is not enough because it takes time to produce. It doesn't drop from heaven every minute. Then the business owners have no choice but to raise prices in order to slow down the demand. For example, chicken rice again. Before you have more money, you only buy the regular chicken rice with just chicken breasts or chicken wings for $3.3. After you have more money, now you want chicken rice with the chicken drumstick because it's tender and juicy, but it costs $5. But remember, one chicken only have 2 drumsticks. What will happen if everyone in Singapore now wants chicken rice with chicken drumsticks? Okay, the chicken rice store owner has to buy more chicken drumsticks from the suppliers in Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand because Singapore is too small, has to import everything. However, there are also people in Malaysia, Indonesia or Thailand who love chicken drumsticks. So what to do now? The suppliers have no choice but to raise the price on chicken drumsticks. Once they raise the price, the store owners in Singapore also have to raise prices because now the cost has become higher. This is just a very simple example to show you why printing more money will affect inflation directly to our life. When everyone has more money, the buying power will in fact decrease. In other words, the more money everyone has, the less valuable money is. Take a look at Zimbabwe. They just have too much money. And slowly by the time, you can only afford lesser and lesser things in life. During the 2020 pandemic, the US has to print tons of money in order to support the business and the society. Because all the factories are closing down for quarantine, most of the supplies stopped. The US also had to import goods from other countries. In 2022, the CPI in the US reached 8%. That is why the US has been raising interest rates to cool down inflation.
I will begin with one overarching message. We at the Fed understand the hardship that high inflation is causing. We're strongly committed to bringing inflation back down, and we're moving expeditiously to do so.
Now you get the idea of inflation. So the same applies to hyperinflation, stagflation, and deflation. Zimbabwe is the best example of hyperinflation, where they just print too much money. the value of the money is even worse than toilet paper. Whereas stagflation is a bit more complicated. It is when both inflation rate and unemployment rate keep going higher and higher. Usually this happens during the post-war period. And for deflation, it is when the CPI is less than 1% or even negative for several years, which Japan has been through for the past 30 years.
Nani?
I will explain more about this in my future video if you guys are interested. Well, all these theories are too heavy for most of us. So what exactly should we do if inflation becomes higher and higher? And what if the economic environment is getting worse? How to make sure your buying power is not shrinking over time? Let's find out in the next video.